Good morning, Vietnam, because it is literally morning in Vietnam. So I can say that it is, I believe, 6:30 in the morning there. And for non-mental European, 6:30 means 6:30 and not 6:30. We're not Germans, after all, or Dutch. Strange people. Do you have that problem, Michael?
Which problem?
Confusion over the term 6:30.
Well, we have Viertel vor acht, which means 7:45. We have Viertel nach, and depending on the dialect, we also have 6:15, and all this thing.
3/4 past.
You grow up with the confusion.
Yeah. No, it's just like speaking English. Modwayne and I, and Sam and Modwayne on one side and me on the other, argue as to what time 6:30 is. And to us Anglophones, like us and the Americans, we even agree on this. 6:30 means 6 minutes and 6 hours and 30 minutes. Half past.
Yes, I'd agree on that too.
Yes, and they're saying, no, it means 5:30. And I'm going, but then it would be
Wouldn't
5.
that be 30 minutes to 6?
Well, I don't know. These people are strange. But Modwade can't be with us tonight, folks. He's going through some shit and is therefore tired. And I know what that's like. Going through a lot of shit and feeling tired all the time, being my life. So there you go. But we have, as a better than adequate replacement, in fact, a fantastic contributor, Mr. Michael Keller of the Swiss establishment today, joining me again.
Good evening.
Good evening, yes. And to be quite honest, if everybody so far, because there's only a handful, like Paolo, if you want to come on, you can feel free, and we could just chat and stream it, even if there's no one else watching. That's fine by me. I mean, why not? Because, to be quite honest, apart from the insanity, like leftists going into hyperdrive, free chocolate. I still want to know who's got chocolate prisoner. But yes, the left going into hyperdrive on their orange man bad. We want to do X. We want to do X. Donald Trump does X. X is bad. Donald Trump's causing the end of the world. On literally any topic you want to know.
As if Hillary didn't want to start an open war with Russia.
Thus the thumbnail and the background.
Okay, Paolo wants to come to join us.
Okay, hang on. It's all right. It's just my brain is broken. Always.
Yes, we all know that.
Yes, you know that, and I just like to get ahead of the curve and admit the fact. I can't see you. Oh, yes, I can. Yes, I can. Yes, I can. There we go. Message. No. I'm sending you on the Discord, young man. Oh, and good evening, Toxic Threads. And you are welcome too, if you have time this afternoon. I'm sorry about the buffering. That's YouTube, internet things.
Howdy.
Good evening, Paolo.
Good evening. So, do you feel unsafe? Do you think I'm being a little alarmist calling this the last stream before World War III ends the world?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, ain't nothing going to happen.
No, I know. That's why I called it that. I like sarcasm, or I am good at sarcasm.
However, get ready for the price of food to go up, because obviously the stock market has reacted and oil has gone up.
So the price of food
Yes,
is
that I've
going
seen too.
up because there's tensions with a part of the world that doesn't export food. That makes sense. If you know what I
Well,
mean.
Then again, I've just heard of a podcast from how do you call it? A stock trading expert, and he said that the Iran crisis will be de-escalated because it is going to be Trump's golden bullet in the 2020 election rally. If he has a war now, the wounded and fallen people would come back, and it would be bad for his election. But if he waits until mid-election time, then he's going to be a war president, and Americans seldomly turn against the war president because they stand with their troops.
Okay.
And he made that podcast about 5 hours before Trump had the speech about Iran, and then Trump actually went for the de-escalation thingy, and I went, there might be something to it. We will have a war, that much inevitable by now, but it's not going to start in the next 4 or 5 weeks, maybe in 4 or 5 months,
Yeah,
giving us time to prepare.
but I mean, Trump doesn't need a war for a landslide, in my opinion.
Well, yeah, with the DNC trying to impeach him instead of actually start
it's
the
not. No, it's
rally.
not just that. It's the fact that all the Democratic candidates have doubled down on the stupid attitudes that caused them to lose in 2016. Is it? No, you see, okay, so the parallels. People keep pointing out the parallels. So in Britain, the Conservatives won in 2015. We had a referendum for Brexit in 2016. We then had an election because May got cocky in 2017, in which she lost ground, okay, and Labour won. But it wasn't that Labour won, it's that May shot herself in both feet and one arm by the most insane manifesto you could imagine, right? So then Labour are like, hey, we're brilliant. We're on the right track. What happens? 2019, they get hammered. Now, America, Trump wins in 2016. We come to the midterms in 2018, the Democrats make gains. Well, they're midterms, duh. And so the Democrats are going, yay, we're on the right track. And they're going to get hammered. That's my prediction.
Nothing surprising there. I think anybody with an actual brain either left the Democratic Party or is doing some kind of weird shit, making sure that only idiots run for president.
Yeah. It's I mean, there's a fundamental problem with their system anyway, in that you have to be a presidential candidate, you have to win the primary. But to win the primary, you need to be a very different candidate than to win the general election.
And you need to be a candidate because, as far as I know, correct me if I'm wrong, the DNC hasn't named the candidates except Bernie, who is commonly.
Well, don't you have? Don't they have the primaries to come? I don't know when they are, because that's how they pick the winner. It's done through the primaries.
Yeah, but who are the candidates for the primaries?
Well, you know,
except those feminazis, of course, and I don't see a chance they can win because it's a Pocahontas, it's that AOC thingy.
AOC.
Well, yeah, I don't want to assume gender.
Right now, I think they're going. This week, I think they're trying to push Creepy Uncle Joe.
Yeah, oh yeah, brilliant.
No, Creepy Uncle Joe is going to be destroyed by the Jewish World Congress because he said something against
Can you have
the
a presidential race between people who use Zimmer frames? That's a joke. Sorry, an ableist joke, but that's a joke. It's just that they're all old. Biden, what's her name? Warren. What's the other one's name? Bernie Sanders. They're all old. Trump is old. Okay.
Yeah.
Isn't it ironic in an age when the young people are so, oh, you have to listen to the youth, and then the presidential candidates are the top, most likely candidates are from the oldest pool there's probably ever been.
Yeah. There's also Michael. Yeah, there's also Michael Bloomberg. I'm not sure. I'm not sure they want a New York guy.
Bloomberg is trying to fight for the Republicans, so I'm not sure if they want to replace Trump, because since he has been elected, the Republicans are doing kind of well, because they can always distance themselves from Trump, because Trump only joined the Republicans to become president.
Yeah.
That's the best card they have at the moment. And when Bloomberg, a real Republican, will be elected and messes up, it's going to stick on the party. Not sure if they are in it.
Well, it's again, I can't say I'm a deep student of American politics, but I thought it was quite unusual for a sitting president to be challenged within his own party. I thought that generally the sitting president got a free run, because being a sitting president actually is an indicator you might win anyway.
Well, yeah, that it is, but he can always do the Ross Perot thingy and go independent.
Yeah, we know what independents do, as in badly.
Well, with the DNC in its current state, I'm not sure if the Americans longer will vote between those two parties and not consider voting for a third party. Even though it's considered losing one's vote, at the moment it might be actually the best to vote a third party.
Bloomberg is standing for the Democrats, by the way, not the Republicans.
For the Democrats?
Yeah.
Also, he changed sides.
No, he's from New York.
Right. In New York they can flip flop if it's politically expedient.
But
okay.
But it says he's former mayor of New York. Well, New York's as blue as they come. That's why AOC got into Congress, because
but AOC is still not running for this election because she's too young. I'm not talking
about the presidential election. I'm saying that the reason she got her Congress seat is because all they had to do was win the primary. Because once she'd won the primary, she was a shoo-in for the House.
I'm looking at the list of Democratic candidates. There's a guy here who was born in India.
Then he can't be president?
Yeah, but from what I can see from his Wikipedia page, he may have been born inside the embassy.
Then he was born in the United States.
See, because his father was aide to the U.S. ambassador to India, so he may have been born in the embassy, which technically is U.S. soil.
Yes.
And is Jewish.
Well,
still, I have no idea who the guy is actually. Michael Bennett.
That doesn't sound a very Jewish name. Interesting.
It's from his father. He's Jewish because his mother is Jewish.
Yeah, that's a Jewish way.
But Michael Bennett, wasn't he already in some kind of American government? The name rings a bell in my head. I don't know why.
It says here is this U.S. Senator from Colorado.
One T.
Oh.
I just found that out. I don't know who most of these people are. Okay, so I know who Cory Booker is and Mayor Pete. Mayor Pete is never going to go anywhere because nobody can pronounce his last name.
Well, that is terribly white supremacist of everybody.
Well, I think his name is Albanian or something. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly what I said. just because Albania's in Europe, they are Muslims.
Wait, his father is from Malta?
Oh well, there you go. That's beyond the pale. I mean, that's almost British.
But where the hell does he get the name Buddy Judge? I have no.
Sounds Yugoslavian, like Serbia.
Yeah, yeah. What's the name? Bud?
It's Buddy Judge, but a lot of people are going
Can you
to
spell
say
it? Sorry.
Butttieg.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, a
I
lot of
heard
people.
someone pronounce it, and they didn't say anything like that. It was
Yeah.
like something really weird. Butty geek.
Butty geek.
Yeah, I think
He's the first openly gay person. Yeah, as opposed to all the in the closet gay people. Probably several. Yes. Though I must admit that between my utter ignorance and the lack of American representation on this stream, I do feel a little.
Well, toxic here.
Yeah, Nick's radio is as
No,
well.
no. They're in the audio. I meant on the talking
Oh.
side. I feel a little reticent about talking about the American situation. Booty judge. Yeah, booty judge. That's how you pronounce it.
Wait, if he's gay, how can he be judging booty?
No, but that's how you pronounce it.
Well, from the inside out, I think, if he's gay.
Unless those are some gays with some big booty.
Oh, I love it. He comes from South Bend, Indiana.
Oh, the irony.
Yes. Sorry. Good old homophobic joke there.
But well, we could talk about what will happen first, Brexit or Third World War.
Well, it depends who you talk to.
Well, the European Union already complaining. Oh, we cannot possibly have a deal done by the end of the year.
No, of course not, because they've only had 3 years, but they refused to negotiate until we left. Delaying tactics, anyone?
Right. So the ball is on Boris's court. Just keep pushing. No deal.
Yeah, that's the best thing to do anyway.
Well, and that's...
No deal, and that as soon they are out, they could reactivate the EFTA agreement. That's the European Free Trade Agreement. That's been longer than the EU's what is it called, single market.
Mm-hmm.
And then they would have free trade with Norway, Switzerland, and Liechtenstein, and they suddenly wouldn't stand alone at all. And the other free trade agreements, and that's why I can't understand the argument of the European Union. The World Trade Organization, people might still know it. They have free trade agreements as templates. Fucking take that template as an interim agreement and then go for another extended free trade agreement if need be. There would also be several free trade agreements the European Union has made without all those controlling factors and this worse deals and giving up sovereignty and so on. Just watch what they gave to the Ukraine or to Turkey. Free trade agreements, free freedom of movement for the membership, but not for the asylum seekers and everything.
Yeah, exactly.
They have this agreement, and there is the international right that if one state gets conditions, shall we say, conditions package A, then this package can't be denied to other countries. So why can't the European Union take the free trade agreement they've made with Turkey or the Ukraine, which is the same package A thing there, and give it to the Brits? It's possible. It's very possible. It can be done within, shall we say, 2 hours? How long does it take to copy those 50 pages?
Because they're lying, deceitful pieces of feces. That's why. You know.
Well, but then again, they still hope that we have a vote in the spring again for the institutional contract they want from Switzerland, which is a worse deal than May has. Shall we call it negotiated for the argument's sake? It's an agreement even worse than May did, and they force us to accept this agreement, so they could go to the Brits and say, listen, Switzerland is a member of the European Union.
Mm-hmm.
They accepted this agreement. There's the international law thing I just quoted for the free trade thingy. And then they could enforce the same contract and the same, what is it called again? I just lost the word. Conditions, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
On the Brits. And that's why they are enforcing it with Switzerland by closing down the frontiers again.
Hey, I'm ready to collapse the Channel Tunnel. I think that'd be fine. And we developed the world's largest empire by ignoring the fuck out of Europe and just paying attention to the rest of the world. I did as good once. It could do as
Yes,
good
and
as
you
once.
also managed to collapse that empire too.
No. It had inbuilt obsolescence. No, seriously, it did. It actually had inbuilt obsolescence because part of our empire philosophy was to give them institutions with which to run themselves. You know, parliamentary democracy, the rule of law, and anyone with a brain can see that if you give people the tools to rule themselves, they're going to want to rule themselves.
Yeah. Well, that's what the founders of the European Union might have thought, because they went to the centralistic approach, unelected government, the EU Parliament having nothing to say at all. I think they wanted to fix that. I hate stuttering. They wanted to fix the error the Brits made with giving other countries the right to decide for themselves.
It
And
wasn't
that's why
a mistake.
Yeah, it wasn't a mistake for everyone with a brain in their head, but the EU thought it was a mistake.
Yeah.
So they react allergic to every country that says, sorry, we are not going to accept that.
Yeah.
It's going to be a fun time next few weeks, I think.
Yeah, well, you know, if we know anything, there'll be a lot of hysteria, an extensive amount of hyperbole. And to be quite honest, if there's any threat to global warming, it's from the amount of hot air coming out of regressives.
Well, it's no longer only hot air. Haven't you heard of what happened in Cologne with the WDR Central? WDR is a German TV station. A few weeks ago, they sent, I think it's a satire show with a children's song.
Uh-huh.
In that song, they accused of every granny to be either a polluter or a Nazi pig.
Yeah.
Obviously, the old people went haywire about this and started protesting.
Naturally,
The
as you
WDR
would.
Yes, exactly. And the WDR immediately went to the defense that only right-wingers would protest against these accusations.
Yeah, I know.
And now,
The SJW defense, which is no
yes,
defense at
but
all.
it gets worse. But John, it gets worse. Now there are constantly about 20 or 50 people, two-digit, 20 or 50.
Mm-hmm.
The WDR Central, because of the right-wing protests, is now being officially guarded by the Antifa. And they constantly have over 1,000 Antifa members
Oh my God.
sitting there at the WDR Central, and they are also attacking everybody who walks into the direction of the protesters against WDR, even though if they have nothing to do with them. There's a famous video on YouTube of a taxi driver defending 3 women who tried to flee into his cab because they were on their way home from working actually at the WDR Central, walking home, but they had to walk towards the protesters and Antifa went for it. It's terrible, isn't it? If they continue like that, I think we are going to have a civil war. In Germany, though, so I won't mind at all, but well, it might also swap to other countries. Had a look
Well,
kurz.
Well, if we have a Germany who is politically unstable, uh, the economic center of the European Union cannot hold, and there's no advantages in being in the European Union, which might precipitate the more countries wanting to leave.
Well, it already did. The
Yeah.
Austrians had a vote in, I believe, 2015 or 16, but it wasn't binding, so they just ignored it. But 80% of the Austrians wanted to leave.
Mhm.
Then we have the whole Catalonian thingy, which, okay, it's separation from Spain, but essentially everything they said against Spain has been due to Brussels decisions. Then the Greek want out. I'm not sure about the Portuguese if they still want to go.
Oh no, we have we equate membership in the European Union with quality of living, because we were in the shit before we joined the EEC. So
Then
the
we got
majority
the
of people
money, huh?
think it's a disaster. Yeah, the majority of people would think it's a disaster not to be in the European Union.
Oh, yeah. But also Hungary and the Czech or the Slovakia, they want to leave too.
Yeah.
Because they're unhappy with Merkel's decisions.
Anyone who's sane wants to leave, and then you've got
Yeah.
the northwestern countries who are nuts.
Well, the countries may be nuts, but the people in there, they start to see and realize what the EU is about.
Well, you see, okay, so take the
And you go
difference between
Roboton.
no, but let's take the difference between the English and the French, right? So we've had the Maillot jaune for over a year. So the government decides to impose punitive taxes on fuel, which hits the large rural, non-urban population around the country, right? And so the people, they take to the streets and they protest. But they still vote him. You know, they still support Macron. They still support being in the EEC. Oops. The EEC, the EU. Britain, okay? If you're paying attention, there is protest about the way politics is going, but the politicians, being in their bubble, don't pay attention because it's not on the streets. It's just a few marches, some support for Tommy Robinson, little Brexit protests, but nowhere near as big as the massively organised and funded pro-European marches with all the fancy banners and the busloads of people transported from all over the country. So they say, oh, no, these are unpopular decisions until there's an actual election. And then the people just say, no, fuck you. You don't represent us. We want what we want. Go away. And that's the difference.
I think in the continent we still have a lack of mainstream politicians interested in leaving, and as long as that remains the official policy of the main parties, and people have a tendency to vote for the main parties.
Yeah, that's the
But
thing.
you can't say that. You can't say that because look at what they did to Italy. There was a clear anti-EU government there. And the EU pressured Italy so long until the party as a whole stepped back from.
It's still a little. It's still you find some people leaving the center. What they can't get right now is absolute majorities, and which forces the center parties to go into coalitions with the parties in the fringes. That gives the parties who are on the 5-10%, who get 5 to 10% votes. They gives them some power, but it's not enough of a mandate to change the system.
See your point.
Yeah, I mean, also, if you get a party that's dissatisfied with the European Union, there is this massive establishment effort to just paint them as far right extremists.
Yeah. See that because that's what Salvini was. Salvini in Italy, Salvini forced the main party to accommodate them. But they there are some things that you can't touch from a minority position. You can influence where the money is being spent, some matters of policy in regarding to national security or public funding, but initiating a political movement that to switch the system from trying to operate outside the European Union, that's still very difficult. You're not going to get there without an absolute majority. So the more fringe parties, they they need to get an absolute majority, but they won't be able to do that if they don't start acting like centrists in the majority of fields that are of interest to voters.
Well,
Because
I think it's
voters
more
don't.
than that. I think it's more than that because a lot of countries have proportional representation, and proportional representation does not support majority government by a single party. And so, even if a party supports a particular policy, it's irrelevant because they have to negotiate and compromise to be in power. And if there's something that's a red line for the other parties, such as leaving the European Union, then that party will forever be excluded, no matter how many votes it gets. You know, Modway talks about this all the time. The second biggest party in the Netherlands is perceived as this hateful right-wing party, and none of the other parties will deal with it. So it doesn't matter how many votes they get, unless they get over 50%, they will never be in power.
Right.
Well, that's the fault when you have governments that need coalitions. Because, for example, we in Switzerland, we don't have coalitions. We just vote, and then we have the parties in the parliament. And from there we go. For each question they are working on, they have other alliances, I wanted to say. And it's a very dynamic thing. So you can see the socialists working with the right-wingers for certain questions they agree on. And then it's the middle parties against everyone else. And then the middle parties with socialists. It's a wild mix. And we don't need a coalition. And the government actually manages to do something, except one party blocks the others. And then we're going to have a referendum about something. And then we Swiss, as the real bosses in the country, we will have a vote about it.
Yeah, but the thing is I hear arguments about different systems. So, for instance, I've been listening a lot to a very influential British historian called David Starkey, and he's been giving a lot of opinions about current events, especially in the context of history. You know, how this reflects that and the other and what so forth. And he's a huge advocate of the two-party system. And he's convinced you can only have two parties. And that he talks up the strengths of the first past the post system, which creates majority governments with a minority of the electorate. But the problem with that is you then get the tyranny of the minority, not even the majority, you get a tyranny of a minority. So it's, you know, pros and cons. No system is perfect. Every system has its faults, and you can always look at a system and say, well, if only we do that other thing, it'll fix this problem. The trouble is, it also will make other problems that didn't exist under the current system. I say, the law I would pass is you can pass no more laws after this one. No more laws. Just get rid of, we have too many laws. Clear the decks, and then we can start again.
I don't know if they know how to function that way.
Well, no, because we have the politicians suited to the system we have. This is the problem. So if you have a system, you will get the people in it who function well in that system, are successful in that system.
We have an interesting situation in Portugal. When the political parties draft bills, they don't draft the bills. They hire law firms to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So law firms purposefully craft laws that are difficult to interpret by a layman.
Yeah.
Thus ensuring that every time somebody needs to go to court, they have to hire a lawyer from a big firm.
Well, no, but here's the thing, right? Okay, so every law, so in the British system, I don't know what the Portuguese system is or the Swiss system, but in the British system, our law is based on precedent. That is, when Parliament acts at legislation, that legislation isn't law.
Mm-hmm.
The law is when a judge has made a judgment based on the legislation. Which, right. This is what confuses people. Now, imagine you have a continuous parliamentary democracy for 800 years. Yes, a lot of laws from the past have been repealed. But for instance, the laws governing the economic system, capitalism, date back to the 1850s. The requirements on a company, what it must do to qualify, its obligations in relation to filing its accounts and so forth, all date back to the 1850s. So we have the long-standing laws that haven't been changed or have only been slightly amended. So every new law you pass has to be interpreted against every other law we've got, potentially. That's why we have judges. And Blair, who came in 97, under his leadership, they passed more laws than had been passed in the entire 800 years before him. He essentially doubled the amount of laws we had. But when you double the amount of laws, you don't double the complexity, because it doesn't work like that. Because if you think of an exponential combination, you're actually, it's to the power of the new number of laws that you've actually introduced the potential conflicts. In other words, it's too fucking hard. You can't function. What a surprise, it doesn't function.
And John, I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
You said if a law has been made,
yeah,
it isn't actually law until a judge decided.
No, it's not a law. It's legislation. It's not a law. It's an act of Parliament. This is what's confusing. The Parliament passes acts. That is called legislation, but it isn't the law.
Yeah. So essentially, the legislation, anyway, that law that was missing, so Brexit couldn't happen last autumn. So actually, they passed this legislation now, but they need a judge to rule upon this to make it into a law.
Yes, that's right.
So Brexit can happen.
Yeah. Well,
did a judge already rule about this?
No. You see. Again, this is where it gets confusing. Okay, Parliament doesn't merely pass legislation; it makes policy. Policy is not legislation.
Yeah, it is confusing.
Yeah. But so in other words, government does stuff. That is policy.
Right.
Policy passes legislation, which are the rules governing people within society. These are not the same things. So the government funding schools doesn't require any legislation. It can just give money to people and say, there's money, run a school. That's not a legislative. That's not a legislative issue. It's a policy issue.
Okay, but going back to the Brexit thingy, last autumn it was said they need a law so Brexit can happen. Was this an error and they just meant a legislation or
Okay. Again, it gets confusing because
it's British?
yeah, we have as I say, hundreds of years of history of that between it all somehow describes how things work. Parliament is supposed to be sovereign, which means that it's the body that makes a decision. So even though Parliament passed a resolution, agreed to have the referendum, which itself they said would be binding on the government, they then insist, because they didn't like the outcome, on having a say on how that's done. When Boris Johnson tried to prorogue Parliament last autumn, I think it was in September, for a couple of extra days, they took him to court. And the court said that was unconstitutional, whereas most of the opinions I've heard say that the court was wrong. But they're the court, so they get to say what the fuck they want. It's all a mess.
That's a way to describe it.
Yeah, and so right. So here's what happens, right? So in 2003, we had the Iraq War, and there was this dossier allegedly, which talked about the weapons of mass destruction and 45 minutes and all that. And basically, Tony Blair went to the House and said, "Oh, there's this, and you've got to vote for a war." Okay. And then there's talk for months about the legality of all this. Because no one knows. It's as clear as mud what is and is not legal and illegal. And these are the experts. They haven't a clue and they can't agree. That's the problem. Because you cannot write anything down as rules or procedures or whatever that can cover a fraction of the real world situation. It just doesn't have. You just can't do it.
Well, one could argue that the UN Charter in Article 1 describes clearly that no country is allowed to attack another country if the Security Council didn't agree on sanction embargoes and
No, I'm talking about the position
of.
No, I'm talking about the position of Tony Blair within the Constitution of the United Kingdom.
Oh.
You know, whether what he did was legitimate in terms of Prime Minister against Parliament.
Yeah, but then again, didn't Margaret Thatcher do the same thing with the Falklands?
Yeah, well, you see, it's all then down to, you know, it's not what you do, it's who you are, and when you do it, that counts.
And that's called democracy.
No, it's called hypocrisy.
Oh, yeah, I get it.
Which is also democracy, but yeah, it's like, you know,
God, that's complicated.
It's like we were joking about earlier. You know, the left is like, do this. Donald Trump does it. The left, that's bad. It'll end the world. Because, you know, it's not what you do. They are literally positioning themselves in opposition to Donald Trump, which is no way to decide anything. Well, that killed the conversation.
Yeah, I'm still trying to figure out how the system in the UK works, but I'm not very lucky.
You see, you see, this is the mistake. You're not supposed to know.
I'm thinking about it.
No, you're not supposed to know.
Wow.
Here's how it works. Those with power, wealth and power, run the country. They allow others to think they have an input to the extent they have to maintain stability. That is the British system for 800 years, and they're not going to stop now. Thus, the battle is to be the ones with the power and influence. As opposed to on my face, like my icon.
Yeah, just a little bigger.
A
And
giant,
it's turning around.
a giant inflatable. Oops, sorry, I just stuck to it. A giant inflatable question mark, like the Trump baby balloon.
Still, it all seems designed to make sure that your parliament is always tripping on itself.
No, that's just an unfortunate consequence. We didn't lose the American colonies for nothing, you know.
You know, if we needed a head of parliament that needed to shout order constantly, like you guys have, the army would be called in to impose order.
Well, did you know this? Okay, because every Briton ought to know this. Our parliament isn't arranged like a lot of modern parliaments. It's arranged as two sides.
Right.
And you have the benches facing each other. In front of each side is a line. You are not supposed to cross the line. Do you know what how far apart those two lines are?
Looks like about 5 meters.
2 sword lengths.
The range of the fences.
2 sword lengths.
I thought so.
Damn.
Yeah.
Well,
right, because they can cross swords that way.
There are still crossbows.
Literally, you know? no, but that wasn't the point. Gentlemen carry swords, after all.
But the gentlemen are in the House of the Lords, not in the House of the Commons.
No. But they designed this rather a long time ago. But no, that is literally the reason for the distance. Is 2 sword lengths.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you know, so it's like, you know, we look at things in a modern perspective from how things are now, and you have to understand that when you have a long-standing tradition and things have developed slowly over time, that the way things are now is actually a consequence of the operation of time on things that were different a long time ago. And so when people shout order, they're only shouting order as opposed to don't stab him. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Shouting order is a vast improvement on what could have happened in the past.
Well, our first parliament is only from 1826, and by the time everyone who could be elected was already part of the elite, so they were all pretty civilized.
Oh no, ours were part of the elites. Doesn't mean they were civilized. This is a fundamental mistake people make. The elites go to great lengths to call their types of callousness civilized. But they are ruthless and cruel. That's the thing with elites. That's why they survive. It's why treason gets the worst punishment.
Eerie silence.
Yeah. But yeah, so we had the mass round of Ricky Gervais praise. And do you know what's really funny is No one knows his politics.
Good.
Yeah, but it's like, I mean, he's typical of an old. He's basically a lefty in the old British tradition of he's left, but he's not an SJW,
Right.
and so everyone thinks because he's supports things like free speech and hates political correctness that he must be a right winger. Right wing Ricky Gervais, and I'm thinking, have you heard some of the things of his opinions?
Well, then again, everything that's not SJW or on the far left is right wing nowadays.
Yeah, that's what I'm finding so funny. It's like, it's like you've got 5-10% of the population who've got all the megaphones, so to speak, and you've got 90% of the population going, God, they're awful. And then the 5-10% with the megaphones are going, but we're the only voices we can hear. We must be the majority. And so somebody goes, no, you're vile, horrible people who shouldn't be telling anyone anything. And they're going, how dare you? You're not allowed to attack people and call them names, you filthy bigot.
Ah.
No. I'm sorry, Renovatio. It doesn't have to be rod of colour because black is affirmative action. There's only one rod and it's black. Therefore, 100% equality. Though it's always wielded by a white man in a strangely Tudorish costume, which is a bit odd.
In a what?
Tudor-ish. Tudor, like Shakespearean sort of era. Ruffles and stockings and so forth.
Ah, that one. Yeah. Get it.
So I couldn't think of a good term for it, but a lot of our ceremonial dress seems to be fixed in that particular era. There's a great anecdote about the Duke of Wellington. The Duke of Wellington not only defeated Napoleon at Waterloo with little Prussian help, he became Prime Minister of what was by then the United Kingdom. And he went to a club, one of these private clubs, something like the Garrick, okay? And they wouldn't let him in because he was wearing trousers. When they required he wear breeches and stockings. And this was in the first half of the 19th century. But remember, those toffs are totally sane. Not.
Well, you can't fight traditions.
You can. Just subtly undermine them.
Like the Knickerbockers in golf. Like Knickerbockers when playing golf.
Yeah, those, yeah. Yeah, those. But we call them breeches. We don't call them knickerbockers. That sounds horrendously American and uncouth.
Well, it's not only American. We call it Knickerbocker in Switzerland too.
Yeah, well, that's what I said. Sorry. That's probably why the Americans call it.
Yeah, because it was exported by us.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, it's like there's a vegetable. We in Britain call it the courgette, which is the French name, and the Americans call it a zucchini, which is the Italian name. Just who's got the bigger influence, I guess.
well, it's also zucchini in the German-spoken part of the world, I think.
Yeah, and that's fine. My point being is that it's it's a randomness to whose influence calls the name. I mean, I kept hearing the term, and I kept going, "What the frig's one of those?"
Yeah, I've seen some maps on Twitter. There's a guy who usually posts maps, and every once in a while he posts maps of Europe with different ways of how to pronounce of how to say certain object, and they compare it to the areas where the origin of the word comes from. Like for example, the word for tea. We in Portugal are among the few who use the word that's closest to Chinese, which is sha. Well, the rest of Europe usually goes with tea, te, and if you there was an interesting map with the way that Germany and German how they were pronounced in different languages, and the Slavs have this strange word for Germany.
Well, lots of straight words for Germany.
Yeah, no,
Like
it's because
Germany.
the first time I heard the Italian word for German, tedesco, I didn't really understand where it came from.
Well, I mean, the French call it Allemand, which is a
Yes,
different Germanic tribe. There
right,
were lots
and we
of
do too.
Germanic tribes, and
Right.
they'd already snaffled the Franks, because Franks are a Germanic tribe, and that's after which France is named. Because it was Galling.
Yep, which came from Gaul. Gaul is related to the word for Welsh.
Well, Welsh actually means foreigner.
Because there was a change between a switch between G and W on a few names in French.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is actually a fundamental process of language evolution. So, for instance, F and P. So the Germans have Schiff, where the English have ship. Looking at some of the etymology, you can see where they've worked out the Proto-Indo-European, and then they show the German branch and the Latin branch, and you end up with words that look nothing like each other, but each has gone through a series of logical changes of substitution of one letter at a time, until you end up with words that don't sound the same, or look the same, or anything. But I mean, it's like if you asked Ludicrous or Renovatio to be grateful, they would say tanks, possibly. No, they're not threatening you. They just don't know how to pronounce the H.
Yeah.
Whereas if you talk to a Londoner, they will say thanks like an F.
Some people when they're learning English for the first time, they imagine that standard British English is what's spoken in London, and then when they hear a Londoner for the first time, they become very surprised they can't understand the word.
Yeah, absolutely. I call the London accent a speech impediment.
Yeah, it's actually the same in Portugal. The Lisbon accent is not the country standard.
Yeah.
Oh, you should all listen to Swiss German dialects, I tell you. 26 of them. Each of them is different.
Yeah, and I noticed the different German dialects. I don't can't remember which car we were test driving in around Berlin, and in the former East Germany, they never learned foreign languages. So as soon as you get out of Berlin, finding somebody who speaks English was always a problem. But
Well,
we
you would have found people speaking Russian over there.
yeah, but I kind of noticed that we stopped at a cafe. We just wanted a coffee, and I asked the guy, "Sprechen English," and the guy said instead of saying nine, he said "nie." Okay. But I said zwei Kaffee bitte, and that, at least I can say that. So, and the guy brought us a coffee. But I noticed that apparently saying need instead of nine is normally that outside Berlin.
Yeah, but then again, the German dialects, they are very, very close to each other.
Hmm.
I tell you, you should start thinking about a vacation in Switzerland, going through all the areas and
Hmm.
listen to our dialects. They have nothing in common. I tell you.
Are they dialects? So they use different words?
Different words, different
Yeah,
stressings.
yeah,
If you don't know about the different stressings, you can't understand what they are saying.
yeah.
I I recommend starting off somewhere near Zurich. They have the most German dialect.
Hmm.
Go over to
That
St.
makes
Gallen.
sense. Isn't that where all the Nazi gold went?
No, that was UK. They just used Switzerland as a channel.
Oh,
No,
okay.
no. Then go over to St. Gallen, and if you find someone who's able to speak some, yeah, German there, go to the Wallis. They are our Welsh. It's actually translated Welsh, and they speak like that. You will not understand a single thing. Even Swiss have issues with them.
Okay, so
Understanding them, not with being people, but understanding them.
but I was telling Toxic earlier. Okay, so there's a Glaswegian comedian called Kevin Bridges, and he was on the Graham Norton show. And Graham Norton is a gay Irishman, so he's not only Irish, but he talks it. You know, there's an affectation that comes from being gay, especially if you're as into the campness that he is, right? Okay. And there were two American guests. And so they're all having a conversation. And then Kevin Bridges starts talking. And the two Americans look at each other and go, I cannot understand a word he says. And yeah, you know. But Glaswegian is a dialect. It's not strictly just an accent. They do say different things that enough exposure to the Scots mean that you can somewhat understand them. And sometimes, nope, not a clue. What do you expect from a country who invented haggis?
Weil, Raven, ich weiß nicht, was ich dir sagen sollte auf Schweizerdeutsch. Ich glaube nicht, dass du überhaupt etwas würdest verstehen. Okay,
Okay.
well, that's been Turgovian dialect.
Oh, okay. It sounds Greek to me. Ba-bum.
When we are making progress, then it actually starts sounding like a language.
I don't know. Well, you know what they say. The English and the Americans are two countries divided by common language. Well, no, because again, you see, because I talk with toxic threads, it's like we have these words that mean different things. So, for instance, I put my car in the garage to be fixed because it was broken, right? But they say they send it to the shop. But for us, a shop is where you buy retail products. But they call that a store. A store for us is where you store things. You see what I'm saying? We've all got the same words, but we're both using them to actually mean very different things.
We have the same words, but not the same language.
Yeah, exactly.
And then there's the whole driving on the pavement thing.
On the pavement?
Yeah. So the pavement in the UK is the sidewalk.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
While in the US, it's the road.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I didn't know the pavement was the road. I didn't know
Because
they
it's
used
paved
the word.
over. It's paved over with asphalt.
Well, so's the pavement. So's the pavement paved over with slabs or asphalt or bricks or.
Oh, Raven. I just seen that Raven tried to write something Swiss and he terribly failed. Just gave him the translation in German. For the English spoken one, it is light to call the bird by telephone, then to, well, anzuvögeln means to. John, how important is being PG rated for the stream?
Not at all. You say what you
Oh,
like. I do.
Okay, then let's go for it. That it is easier to call the bird by phone than to fuck the woman. I don't think this is what he wanted to write.
I don't know. It makes a kind of sense in a way. It certainly gets you thinking. Do you have the same use of bird as a euphemism for woman, or is it purely of avian creature?
Say again, please. I didn't pay attention. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. Do you have the same meaning in German of bird as a euphemism for woman, or is it just avian creature?
We understand the meaning, but for I think the Germans call it Schwalbe too. We call it Bordsteinschwalbe for a hoe at the street.
Mm-hmm.
And actually we go for hare to describe the women.
Okay.
She's a sweet hare. She's a süße Hase, which means, well, she's kind of cute.
Okay. Women can be cute, as can children, as can cats and dogs and some other creatures in their cute stage. It's easier to ring the phone of Miss Bird than to fuck Mrs. Lute. Okay.
That makes no sense.
I don't know who Mrs. Lute is supposed to represent. You see, and this is the weird thing about idiom. It's like, so my sister-in-law lives in northern France, bordering on Belgium, and she is involved with the war graves and things like that, and veterans. And she was translating letters from the First World War into modern, so presumably old French into modern English, or it might be old English into modern French. And the problem is if you've forgotten the idioms, You know what the words say, but you haven't got a frigging clue what they're going on about. Because the literal words, as in this case, make no sense. But we forget this because in the moment you know what somebody means, so you forget the fact that you're actually translating idiom into non-idiom, so to speak, literal speak. Which is one of the reasons SJWs get so upset about so many things, because they don't understand idiom. They just say, "Oh, that's racist." No, you have to stop taking blackboard to mean black person board and mean a board which is black.
Which immediately leads to the question, how would a SJW describe a checkboard? A chessboard, I mean, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, a checkerboard.
Because it has
I got
black
it.
and white spots.
Oh, did
And
you
black and
hear?
white is racism.
No, did you hear that because of white supremacy, they want black to move first?
Seriously?
Yes. This is how retarded they are. You get the one that said, "Oh, white gets to move first. That's white privilege. Therefore, we must have black move first."
Yes, but then still again, it would be a match between white against black, and that would be called racism as a whole.
Oh well, this
And
is
then
the
the whole
SJW
game is
magic.
about to, and the whole game is about to get the dame, the queen from the other side to get off the board.
No, the king.
And that you say in German,
the king.
yes, the king, but first you have to get rid of the
No,
queen,
you
otherwise
don't.
the other
No,
one side
you
wins.
don't. No, you don't.
If you
All you
play
have
like
to
me,
do,
you do.
no, but you don't. Technically, you don't. There are ways of winning that don't involve the loss of any more than a single piece. There's a 4-move victory.
Yes, that's true, but I wanted to make another point. In German, we say du musst die Dame schlagen. You have to beat the queen.
Okay.
So it's not only racist, it's also misogynistic because you have to beat the queen.
Yeah, well, sadly,
And the social justice warrior didn't go for that.
That's a weak joke. Sorry.
But it's a weak joke. That's right for the social justice warriors. They can't take normal jokes.
No,
They're
that's
too
true.
hard for them.
They can't take any jokes. They don't have a sense of humor. We all know this.
Well, that's true again, yeah.
I mean, did you hear about that normal new guy meme?
Yeah, in today's Badger stream, I've seen that that's a new meme, but I didn't know what it is about.
Okay, so basically, somebody published a 4-panel cartoon. You have a purple-haired woman, small woman, with a large bloke, and on the badge of the bloke says "new guy," and she's laughing, and the guy's going, "What's so funny?" And she says, "There's this awful millionaire who got robbed," and he said, and so the guys go, "But that's not nice. That's not funny. Imagine how you'd feel." And she says, "Oh, I can see we're going to be such friends." And he goes, "Really?" And she goes, "No." Okay, and the author of this was really surprised when everyone said that woman as depicted in the cartoon is awful. She couldn't understand it. Because to her, laughing at the misfortune of rich people is actually a good thing. And being cruel and mean and sarcastic to the good person who has empathy, that's also a good thing. And that's what the meme's about.
Okay, I can see what it has become a meme, yeah.
Well, no, what was funny was her reaction of utter bewilderment. That this SJW, clearly depicted as such by the purple hair, was viewed as the bad person, and the guy with his kind heart and generous attitude was viewed as the good person. She couldn't understand that. She's like, you're not a hateful, vile person like me. What's wrong with you? But we're all about love and inclusiveness and, all the other bullshit you come out with.
Yeah, but then it all boils down to the point you've mentioned earlier. As everything is okay as long the good ones, the right ones, are doing it.
Yeah, which is exactly backwards.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have that one. We have the war. Thus the Hillary Clinton. It's a shame Anxious Oz isn't here. I wanted to ask her about Australia. I hope she's not here because of the situation in Australia.
They have some smoking issues down there, right?
Well, she said she couldn't see. It was just like a fog. Not good. And I must admit, I do feel for them.
I read the news recently, and it was said that the first smoke clouds from Australia are arriving at the South American borders.
Wow,
they actually have smoke measured in the atmosphere.
That is quite a global current.
Yep.
To cross the Pacific like that, that's a heck of a long way.
Yeah, and in the meanwhile, dear Greta is scheduled to arrive at the World Economic Forum in Davos. And I'm not amused by that thought because she's going to travel again and her stuff will fly again.
Yeah, well, you know what it's like. Do what I say, not what I do.
Yeah, be afraid, be scared.
You see, what I don't understand is why her being physically present matters. Don't they have video conferencing with an organization?
Yes, wouldn't it be better for the environment if she wouldn't travel with
Yeah, you just beam onto a screen. I mean, how hard is it? I really don't. It's not like she needs to network with these people.
Yeah, and she can insult them from far away too.
Yeah. So
and also if she says, oh, she should be back at school, well, girl, go for it, go back to school. You can have some handcuffs to get you fixed on the table so you can actually stay there. Nobody is forcing you to not go to school.
So I was having a joke. There's a regular commenter on Alicia's videos, a guy called, what's he called? Zelix Leo the Fifth or something. Strange name. And he comments, and he said something about Greta, and he called her a cute freckled girl. And I'm going, you need either your eyesight or your sanity or your judgment testing. Yes, cute. Like cute. That is not the word that comes to mind. Demonic.
Well, maybe he confused her with Pippi Langstrumpf, Pippi Longstocks, I think.
No, he was talking about Thunberg. But does anyone remember Chucky from the horror films?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, okay. Cute like Chucky. That's what I thought.
That's about it, yeah.
Yes. Cute like a psychotic doll.
Yeah, but imagine that girl's life later on. She has no education because she's not at school. She has no looks. And eventually, all the lies she told us and about her being financed by, shall we say, George Soros, it's pretty much sure where the money came from. It will blow up in her face, and she will have a completely destroyed life after that.
But that's the thing, though. That's the thing, though, because the people who use people like Greta are so devoid of any humanity that they don't care. They literally have no care for the fact it will destroy this girl's life because she's a useful tool in the moment.
The most disturbing part, her parents are part in that too.
Yes, I know. But we see this. It is a great myth that parents are always and necessarily have genuine, nice, honest feelings for their children. They don't. Some parents are, I mean, it's like you hear all those stories. It used to be the women who's pushed their daughters into the American, what they call them, the pageants. The pageants. Do you remember? And you've got some like 6-year-old girl, and her mother's just a fanatic. And it's like the child's just like a doll to them. They don't care. It's themselves. Okay. Killed the conversation again. I'm doing well here.
Yeah, you're making progress. So, no, I just had a thought, well, maybe we won't even live long enough to see the new World Economic Forum, which wouldn't be a bad thing after all, I think.
Well, yeah.
If the crisis progresses, it may be as well that the leader of the states, also known as the lobbyists, will say, no, we are going to skip this one.
I've got to say, I do worry about this rise in all these forums because you've got the G7, the G20, there's another one in between. And then you've got, like you say, you've got this new economic forum. It's like there never used to be all these. And to be quite honest, I'm rather perturbed by them.
Yeah, they don't have to talk all together. It used to be a bilateral thing between the states and the countries and so on. What are they talking about? I'm not about conspiracy theories here, but it's just if they want to debate a certain topic, there would still be, and don't laugh at me, the United Nations.
Yeah, no, exactly. I was thinking the same thing. There are forums for doing so already. Why do they keep inviting yet new junkets to go on? Maybe it's a push by the resorts they go to.
Not necessarily, because they had to change locations. It wasn't always in Davos. It was a private idea to get those state leaders together to debate certain things and topics. And I went, why? There's the WTO. If you want to talk business with those people, go there. That's what it's made for. If you want to debate political things that have a global impact, go to the UN. What is it called? Not the security chamber, the other one, the big one.
And lots and lots and lots of.
Yeah, there are opportunities already established, but they would be official. With the G20, the G7, and everything else, they are almost unofficial.
But the other thing is, if you said to me, okay, the United Kingdom has to talk to these other countries, the last person I would trust to be knowledgeable is the Prime Minister. Because the Prime Minister is a generalist.
And there's the whole diplomatic corps with ambassadors and specialists negotiating and so on. It's the same with Switzerland. Our federal councils started traveling in about 1998, when the EU has been manifested. They started to fly to Brussels, to Berlin, to the United States, and so on. Everybody's asking why. They have excuse me, they have no business flying anywhere.
Yeah.
They are the executive. They are not even there to make contracts. That's what we have a diplomatic corps for. There are special diplomats speaking the language of the corresponding country so they can negotiate. There are also ambassadors who are sitting there to talk to the governments in I forgot the word for anyway, they have to go there and do that. We don't need ambassadors. We don't need diplomatic corps, which takes billions of Swiss francs
Yeah.
if the Federal Council is traveling. So either they stop traveling, which also costs a lots of money, or we can save elsewhere.
Yeah. Well, as I say, it all just seems like a self-perpetuating, gravy train for those facilitating it. Oh, darling, I'm going to take you somewhere exotic tonight. Admittedly, it's for a World Economic Forum, probably protested by environmental activists, but we're going somewhere exotic. Sorry. It's the way my brain works.
I wouldn't call it works. I would call it malfunctions.
Well, potato, So it's all much of a muchness. As I say, how much do they actually get done? Let me guess. There are intense, protracted negotiations behind the scenes. Then the leaders sit together in a room, smile, and sign their name. That's the general way these things go. No, I must admit.
We
Sorry,
managed to cancel the conversation.
sorry. I want to make a bad joke. So I'm chatting with Richard Bayer about girls dancing in lingerie as part of a beauty pageant. And he said, the girls are all minors. And I'm thinking, good, another blow for gender equality. Get them down the mines. But of course, that's not the kind of minors he means.
So you're saying Epstein didn't kill himself?
Of course he didn't kill himself. No one believes he killed himself. Even the people saying he did kill himself don't believe he killed himself. They're just saying it because that's what they're told to say.
Because otherwise they will kill themselves too.
Yeah, or be out of a job. You know what they say, the first casualty of war is the truth?
Knew that one.
Yeah, well, our societies have been at war for a long time. What do you think 1984 was about? It wasn't about international conflict. It was about intranational conflict. It's about groups waging war on their fellow citizens.
Yes, and because people forgot what it is about, SJWs took it as a manual, not as a warning.
Well, I don't think they forgot. I think they just said, ooh, ideas, because they are not the most creative. You might have noticed this. They are utterly derivative.
They're destroying everything, trying to be creative.
But they can't be creative. That's the point. If they were creative...
But you have to be creative to destroy everything.
No.
You have to be creative to destroy a franchise like Star Wars. You can't do it just like this. You have to be creative in destroying it.
No.
Because
they
if
don't. You just have to be dogmatic and fanatical. That's how you destroy it. Not by being creative, but just by being dogmatic. We must have more representation. We must have... But what about the story? We don't care about the story. We must have representation. That's what kills it. Not creativity. That's my view.
Yes, but to make it a movie, you have to be creative to get it done, because otherwise people would say, okay, no, this is no script, you're going to greenlight. You have to be creative and find ways to do it. I'm not saying about creative stories, John. I'm not talking about creative stories. I'm saying they had to be creative to find ways to get it greenlit.
Have you ever seen Get Shorty?
Actually, no.
Okay, it's a John Travolta film, and
Oh,
it's
that's
a
why.
and it's a well, no, it's a really funny film. And basically, what it is uh, John Travolta plays a gangster from the East Coast, and he goes
Did
over
he
to
dance?
Hollywood. So it's actually a Hollywood movie, and it's about the cultural interplay between this gangster and his attitudes and Hollywood and their attitudes. And there are all these scenes about, oh yeah, and then they're reeling off all the things about recent successful films at the time they made it, obviously. And yeah, we want so and so, a character like so and so doing, and then they give a plot scene, and it would be like it's all regurgitation. There's no creativity. There's lots of people doing what lots of people do. But don't think there's a creative process involved in a lot of it.
Hmm.
That's why there are so many sequels, prequels, remakes, reboots. You know, if they had an original thought in the head, they would express it. They wouldn't attempt to just make an existing popular character female, black, gay, whatever. They would actually create new compelling characters, but they don't. They aren't creative.
I'm not arguing that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think Paolo's gone to sleep. Sorry, Paolo.
No, sorry. The conversation has been cutting out a lot, and I don't know why. But I think it's back to normal now. I've been like 10 minutes only hearing. Buck, 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 buck.
Oh God, that's horrible. I do apologise. Maybe the stream's like that. I don't know.
I think it's on my. I think it was on my side.
It could be the Hangout. It could be the Hangout. Yeah, because we're not talking over the stream, but only over the Hangout.
So are people in the chat are hearing as well, or?
Well, we don't know because when you were messaging,
That's why I asked.
Well, when you were messaging me about roboting, it might only be the Hangout that's roboting. I mean, I've heard you two fine. I've not had any troubles with you two. Ludicrous Leprechaun's given us a smile. No, that's a stream. And another smile. I have no idea what he means, but that is nothing new. Leprechauns have a different way of thinking. It's all that fake gold and rainbow chasing and Blarney's stones.
Complexes because they're only 1 meter high.
We can hear MK. There you go, Michael. You are the star. The rest of us are silent, apparently.
Well, actually, I'm more like a black hole.
No.
Oh, sorry. A hole of gravity and no color.
Well, that technically black isn't a color anyway. It's a shade.
50 Shades of Black.
No, it's a shade, so it's okay. Which is why people of color is such a joke.
Yeah, because black, people of color.
Yeah.
Blacks are black. And if I get a sunburn, I'm turning red. If I'm cold, I'm turning blue. If I'm sick, I'm turning green.
And if I'm
if you choke me, I turn into some kind of purple.
Yeah.
And you got the fucking nerve to call me colored.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was from 1996.
Yeah. And it's still true.
I like to, you see, I just think there's people, and I know this seems a strangely anachronistic, racist attitude to the world, apparently. It's like, okay, so it's racist to not care about someone's race. Really?
Yeah. Then why all this pandering to black people if it's racist to pander about the race?
Yeah. Because you have to be racist to be not racist. And if you're not racist, you're racist. Because that's SJW reasoning for you. And I will not use the word logic in association with SJWs. because they don't know how to apply
Well,
it.
I'll do because their arguing is causing me some serious brain tilt in my logic center.
Yeah, your logic center, because they cannot,
Well-
they don't know logic, they have reasoning.
Well, logic is inherently white supremacist.
Of course, as are
True that.
facts and science. So, what I want to know from the SJWs is, when are they going to give up all the products of this white supremacy? When are they going to give up their modern homes, modern medicine, modern lifestyles, modern
A
technology?
smartphone?
Yeah, exactly. Not just smartphone, but as Ricky Gervais kindly reminded us, manufactured in Chinese sweatshops. And they'll be wearing a t-shirt saying, "This is what a feminist looks like, made in a Chinese sweatshop." Funny that. People of shade.
More like shady people, right?
Oh, just
That's
people.
what he meant.
I'm with Morgan Freeman all the way. If you want to stop racism, just stop talking about it.
I completely agree with that. We should listen to Morgan Freeman. He's a wise man.
Yeah. And it's like, oh my God. They're going the exact opposite way in Britain at the moment with the football. It's like we had a Chelsea player who's German, but he's black, called Rudiger, something Rudiger. Okay? I probably butchered the pronunciation, by the way. And he heard monkey noises at a football match. It's been announced today that after investigating, the police found no evidence of it. Now, you consider that there are half a dozen television cameras and a shitload of microphones. So if anyone did that, the chances are it would have been picked up. But I draw your attention, by way of parallel, to a certain very good Argentinian footballer. His name is Sergio Aguero. You'll appreciate this, Paolo. Being Argentinian, he has more than one part to his name. Do you know what his other part of his name is? I'll give you a clue. It's
What?
K, U with an umlaut, N. Do you know how they pronounce it? You should know this, Michael. Because obviously it's not Argentinian, it's a Germanic name.
Yeah. I did not. K, the U, and what's the third one?
N. So how would you pronounce
Kuhn.
that? Coon.
Grün.
Coon! Exactly.
No, Grün, not Kuhn.
No, but it doesn't
Grün.
matter. It doesn't matter. We're talking about English football fans here.
Oh.
Right. The point is, it doesn't matter. So, they are shouting Coon in appreciation of a man who's got that written on his shirt. Coon Aguero. Right?
Oh, yeah.
But of course, your average SJW is going, "They're shouting Coon, they're racist." No, you fucking morons.
It's his name, for crying out loud.
It's his name.
The most Britons even know what coon means in a racial context.
Only from Americans. The Americans make sure we all get to feel their guilt.
That's pathetic.
Yeah, of course it is. And this is my point. So there are many noises that could be mistaken for monkey noises. This being my ultimate point about this. But it might not be. But the way the brain works is, once it fixes into an interpretation of what it's seeing or hearing, it accentuates that. We have all these visual puzzles, these audio puzzles, where You can flip between different perspectives. And it's just the way the brain works. The brain processes the inputs into something it tries to interpret, but in doing so isn't exactly true to the source.
Yes, but then for this Rüdiger guy, you also have to consider if he is German, if he was born there and raised there, he would have inherited the German attribute of being offended. They are constantly offended,
Well,
and they
no,
are constantly shouting about being offended.
but it's not just
And
that.
if he's German, yeah, but if he's German, he has to complain about anything because he's offended, because that's what they are, offended.
Yeah, but he's
I'm
black.
sorry,
And
Raven, but
he's
you know.
black, and there is a building perception of terrible racism in football stadium. Now, here's the point. Okay, so let's suppose for one moment, okay, this Chelsea player at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium heard racist chanting. Who was that chanting coming from? Let's say it's a Tottenham fan. Okay, let's look at the Tottenham team. How many black players are there? Several. So how racist is that supporter? And you could say that about any team. So there's all these racist incidents. Yeah, but every single one by someone who must like black people in their team. So how racist are they really? Or are they doing what they're doing to get an adverse reaction and put someone off the game?
Well, as Ludicrous said, he should have focused on the game, then he might have scored a goal.
Oh, Sergio
Maybe
Aguero
that was
scores.
nice.
No, he said that, I think, to the Aguero thing. And Aguero is one of the best goal scorers in the world, one of the best strikers of his generation. So, I mean, it's like, which is why they chant his name a lot, because he's such a good footballer. But my point being is that you could take many things, not anything, but many things out of context and portray it in a bad light. And then you just have to broaden your view into a better context, and you can actually say, well, no, actually, you know what? In fact, I was researching, don't ask why, Nobel Prize winners. One of them was talking about the women's, how many women's have had a Nobel Prize. And you may be aware of the what is quite a well-known incident where Crick and Watson, who discovered the helix nature of DNA, but they discovered the helix nature of DNA thanks to the pioneering photographic work of their colleague, who was a woman. When they got the Nobel Prize, one of them, I can't remember whether it was Crick or Watson, has been described as downplaying her role. Okay? And this is seen as proof of sexism. Why? Would that person who's got the Nobel Prize have been equally dismissive of a man who'd been an expert photographer and played the role they played? No one asked that question. Because she was a woman and her role was dismissed, it's sexism. It's only sexism because she's a woman. The exact same behaviour against a man cannot be blamed on sexism, therefore it's not sexism. This is exactly upside down. But it's the way they do it. It's like, oh, I didn't get that position and I'm X. Therefore it's because of X. No, it's because you're shit. Suck it up. Get better. Rant over, sorry.
Did anyone count how many times John brought the conversation to a halt?
Yeah, every time, because I do that. Yeah.
So then what's the count?
I don't know. Who cares?
But you just said you
No,
just said you take
I
the
said every
count.
time. No, I said every time. I was agreeing that I
Yes,
bring the
but
conversation to a halt every time.
I can be a grammar Nazi now. Yeah, I asked about did someone take account of how many times John stopped the conversation, and you said yes, you do. So
Yeah,
what's
I
the
do
count
bring the
now?
cat. I was agreeing with the sentiment that I keep bringing the conversation to a halt.
Yeah, but it wasn't the point I was making.
Well, I apologise for not knowing the number and not caring. So, on the subject,
Wait, what?
okay, of looking into Nobel Prizes. So I looked at this web page, Wikipedia, obviously. There was a web page, and it was number of Nobel Prizes by country. You might think that's a relatively simple thing to determine. Yes or no? Yes? No?
Yes, for the sake of the argument.
Okay. So I start looking down. Okay, so the United States had the most. The United Kingdom had the second number. So I start looking down the UK list. And then they went born here, born there, born. And like a huge proportion of them weren't born in the United Kingdom. Okay. Then I looked at the American list. And there were 5 in a row who were all born in the United Kingdom. So I'm thinking, so how do they judge the country?
By the place of origin.
But
If you have made a what is
the
it called
origin of the institution at which the person is working.
that's
Yes.
what I wanted to say.
Yeah. Okay. So then, okay. But do you see how already we have confusion? Because if you said to me by country, I would have thought of by nationality of the person.
Well, that would have been called by nationality of the person, but by country means where did the invention come from?
No. Because you are post hoc interpreting it that way. My initial interpretation was by country was by nationality of the person getting the prize, because a person gets the prize. That's the point.
Yeah.
So if you do a breakdown of by the country of the prizes, that's the country of the people. But to me, okay. So then I thought about, okay, I'm going to mention a few names. You might or may not know them. Spike Milligan. Do you know Spike Milligan, the comedian?
Nope.
Okay.
Nope.
Okay. He was a famous comedian back in the day, but in Britain. Richard Dawkins.
Rings a bell.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, famous
Big fan.
atheist. Famous atheist, right? Okay. Would you say Richard Dawkins is British?
Well, I know he is.
Sorry?
I know he is.
Yeah, but he was born in Kenya.
Which at the time was British Kenya.
Well, maybe not. But the point was he wasn't born in the United Kingdom. See, my point is this. It's not that he's not British. The point is being born like the person born in the American embassy mentioned earlier in another country may or may not indicate that they're foreign. You see what I'm saying? So the place of birth and the nationality are not necessarily synonymous. So even on that score, it starts to become ambiguous. It's, we think we can say, oh, the number of British people who, and then what do you actually mean by British person or American or whatever? If you're a country that has a long history of immigration and emigration, it gets a bit more complicated. And yet we have, in general, most people will have a simple notion of what it means to be from a country. Because that idea is true for most people, but it's not true for all people. Does that make sense? God, I've killed the stream.
No, it makes sense, but I think we can shorten it up. It's like in mathematics.
Yeah.
It's all a question about the definition.
Yeah, but this is my point. But we talk about things, which is all about definition, without actually defining it. That's my point. So we can take the Nobel Prize list by country as a perfect example. You took one interpretation, which is reasonable. I took another interpretation, which is reasonable, and they're not the same interpretation. And this, you can say, characterizes so much public discourse that people talk about the same thing they think because they call it the same thing, but it's not the same thing. I know I'm getting too deep. Sorry, it's too late.
Yeah, somehow.
Anyway,
Shall we go back to the topic of the stream?
There was one? What was that?
I think, yeah.
Okay, if you like.
Oh yeah, the end of the world. Okay.
Well, it's more sarcasm towards the hyperbolic reactions to the events. You know, hysterical people running around like headless chickens.
I think it's more the commentators who are running around like headless chickens.
People, yeah, they are people. I know that's controversial, but the commentators are people. Sorry.
But anyone that actually matters and that's making decisions, they know that it's not going to go anywhere, and the commentators need to fill up space in the local news.
Of course, yeah. 1 second, I'll be right back.
Of course, it actually becomes boring after a while to always listening to these guys. Like, how could Donald Trump do that? Doesn't he know what he's about to do? He's not about to do anything, and nobody else. Excuse me, what is a high-ranking military from Iran doing in Iraq?
He was fighting ISIS a month ago. It's actually the thing. CNN was praising Soleimani for the figurehead of the fight against ISIS about 1.5 months ago. Then they turned him into a terrorist because he's from Iran. And that's the new enemy. Hello?
Yeah, but is the one that's been training the
back again.
He has been training the insurgent groups that occasionally do terrorist acts in Iraq. So,
well, that's what they say. What they are saying now. I think we will never know because he was in a secret mission there. But a month ago, they praised him for training the troops that fought against ISIS.
I think he was trying to recruit them.
Well, as people pointed out with Syria, you have all these factions and none of them are the good guys. They're just different shades of bad.
You can't really trust anybody in the region because they all have their their different objectives, and one thing they all agree on is that they don't like Western interference. They want to be able to kill each other
In peace.
without.
Pardon the pun.
It's a good analogy, actually, but I can agree with they don't want Western troops in their countries because imagine the United States coming to Portugal and to democratize the country because you had a government that they didn't like, or
But they did. They did in 1975. The CIA supported
yeah,
the Socialist Party in order to counter the Communist Party.
Yeah, well, the
yes,
And
CIA are
exactly.
not a good influence.
in the 1981, the CIA murdered our prime minister, which was funny. He wasn't even the target. He was supposed to be on that plane.
Well, the CIA are not a good influence generally.
Yeah, but that's the reason why we have issues with the Middle Eastern area from begin with, because in the mid-50s, the Iranian government, the democratically elected government, decided to take the British petroleum, everything they owned in Iran, and make it into a state-funded company because British Petroleum didn't give a single dime to the Iranian people for their oil, essentially. And then British Petroleum asked the CIA to do something against the government. And they did. That was the first regime change. Then we had the Ayatollah coming in after that because nobody cared about what will be after that. And the Ayatollah turned against the United States. Issue number one. So they eventually brought up the Iraqi government. When they turned against the United States, they replaced the Iraqi government with Saddam Hussein, which, as we all know, turned
Turned out
completely
really
berserk.
well, really well.
Yeah, that worked out well, didn't it?
Yep.
Yeah.
And every government down there has been replaced by CIA puppets,
fucking
which
CIA are
eventually turned
cancer.
against them. And
See?
that's the issue. And the people there, they are finally, or they were fed up by the influence of the CIA for a long time now, and now with the US Army in their country, and they didn't want to go. Question is why. Now they are completely fed up, and that's why they went to the US embassy to tell them, "Hey, leave our country." And that's what the United States can't have because they have been asked to leave. It's the same with Rammstein. There were protests against that big Air Force base in Germany, against Rammstein. They brought the protesters down. There was the protest in Okinawa, a whole Japanese island being made into a one giant base of the US Armed Forces. They brought the protests down. They don't like being asked to leave the country. I don't know why. Because if I think about the United States troops coming to Switzerland to democratize us, in quotes, I would have a big problem with that. Because we have a bigger democracy than the United States. We have votings on a nationwide area.
Yeah, but you don't have oil, so you're safe.
Yeah, but if they come to us, I would fight against their occupation.
You are safe. You haven't got oil. Relax.
Yeah, but we have water, and that's going to be more important with time being.
You have what?
Water.
Water.
All the water, the thing you drink.
No, it's
beer.
all right. It was the pronunciation caught me, and then I figured it, and then I said it, and then I understood.
Yeah.
But no, the United States is not going to. No, again, you've got water, but water is not like oil. The United States is not going to invade. No, the United States is not going to invade anywhere in Europe because of water. The United States has huge oceans and there are desalination plants, and you can get all the water you need far more closely and far more easily than going across several thousand miles of water in order to intervene in a small country.
Well, that's true. But other troops, shall we say the Germans or the French?
Yeah. That's different. That's different. Yes, the Germans and French, but we're talking
Yeah,
specifically
it's the same
about.
principle. If they come to Switzerland for to get something, we wouldn't be happy about that neither. I
But the
mean,
Germans don't invade for anything other than because they can.
well, yeah.
The Germans Germans are the SJWs of Europe. They know best, and everyone should do what they say, and they will make sure they do. What do you mean you don't like being invaded and told what to do? But we're the best. Look at us, see? That's the German.
Am deutschen Wesen muss die Welt genesen. A German saying that the way of life from Germany shall heal the world.
Yeah. Okay. Build the wall. If that's healing,
They can't.
if
They
that's
can't. The Germans can't handle big projects anymore. Just look at the new airport in Berlin.
no,
It
but I
shall
mean,
open it. It shall open in October for 1 week, so they had it open, but then they have to close it down for
no.
renovation.
I'm not asking Germans to build the wall. I'm asking us to build a wall around Germany, like the one I want to build around London. It's just a bit larger.
Yeah. Still about the wall. We told you earlier, landmines and flamethrowers would be cheaper.
As well. I want to do it properly. In particular, I don't want them to see it out. Then they can develop a mythology about how the rest of the world is a wasteland. And they are the lucky people, and that will keep them inside.
Oh, like in Judge Dredd.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what you do, you see. You make them into a metropolis, and you say, no, you have to stay in here because the rest of the world will kill you. You know, it's not people, but just be out of your nice little safe enclave. You will die. And so don't try. Just stay where you are. That's my utterly unrealistic, forgetting about satellite technology plan to convince all the idiots in my country to go and live in one place and leave the rest of us alone.
Well, Walt Germany won't have any need for satellites. Why would they need to communicate with the outside world?
Well, what you do is you set up a fake set of satellites that feed them doctored images. You know, what was it?
Yes.
That Jim Carrey movie. The one where it was
the
like
Truman Show.
Truman Show, yeah, like that. Okay. So you think the outside world is very different than it really is?
Or we can give them Knight Rider and Baywatch reruns on a loop.
Yeah, but they have to think they're communicating with the disintegrating fragments of a destroyed civilization everywhere else. And they're the one island of success and peace.
This is a part of the emergency broadcast system. For now, you will have 5 seasons of Baywatch on a loop. Then
I'm not sure SJWs would like Baywatch. Can we have an SJW series?
Good looking.
Well, it's Germany. It's because of David Hasselhoff.
No, I know in Germany, but in Britain, I'm thinking
like
London. Sorry, bit parochial of me. I'm thinking London. Okay, what would the SJWs want to watch? You have 5. You can have all series of Sex in the City.
And Steven Universe, I guess. I hear they like that.
Okay, yeah.
I've never seen an episode of Steven Universe. I don't think I'm missing out.
I didn't even know. I managed to go my whole life. In some ways, my life started in September 2015, because that was the first time I ever went online for stuff like YouTube. I'd never seen a YouTube video before September 2015.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Oh, you're such a boomer.
No, it was all I'd ever heard about social media was security risk, people being twats in cat videos. And I'm like, I don't care about any of those things. And then I was on holiday and bored, and I went to a website, the Dawkins Foundation of all things. And that, of all things, took me to a Jacqueline Glenn video. And the rest is infamous in his, well, you know, history, I guess.
I found out about the anti-SJW theme on YouTube because Black Lives Matter was on TV in the Portuguese news, and I asked myself, how many black people hate Black Lives Matter? So I put that in Google, and I found that guy T, who has been.
I think there are a lot more than that.
Yeah, but that was the first one I saw. It was that guy T, the black libertarian from Atlanta.
Yeah,
He's mostly disappeared now, but
yeah. Well, that's because he's an idiot. But there's some black guy.
Yeah, but right, and then I saw some black guy, and that led me to Bering, and that led me to V, and that led me to Kraut, and that led me to Sargon.
Yeah.
And and that led me to Dr. Randomer Cam, and all of a sudden I was watching too many videos.
Well, actually, my route was far more circuitous. So I watched Jacqueline Glenn. This led me to people like Noel Plum.
Mm-hmm.
But it also led me to Mines.
I went to Mines because Dave Cullen started talking about it.
It could even mean Dave Cullen. I can't remember exactly. So I went to Mines and I immediately found the anti-SJW group.
Mm-hmm.
And then the rest is history. I actually met people like Ludacris on the anti-SJW.
Yeah.
And obviously then I found people like Karen Strawn and the Honey Badgers. And, Modwayne as well. I met Modwayne. And Alicia. I actually responded to Alicia's first ever post on the Minds Anti-SJW. And she doesn't even remember it, but I remember her. So, yeah. So it's all mine. It's all the fault of Minds.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not even sure on Minds is nowadays. I practically don't go there anymore.
I've stopped going a long time, but that's because I hate the interface.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the thing wasn't evolving. You know, the main problem was that a lot of people started going there because they wanted to reach people, but there aren't enough people there for it to make it worthwhile.
Well, you have to have interaction, right?
Right.
So if you have people who only want to reach people, they're not putting the effort in to respond when you try and interact with them.
Yeah. The other thing is that you went straight to the you went straight to the groups because I wasn't even following people individually.
It's very hard. The feed was so spammed by not people you're following.
Yeah.
And I was finding that people I followed posted, I didn't see them, but I see a lot of posts by a few people I followed. And it's like, well, this, you know, if I'm on Twitter for the time I was, I got the posts by the people I followed. So that works for me. And Mine's never did. I hated the interface because I could join a group and interact with all the posts in a group. But then if anyone in that group posted anywhere else, I didn't know about it because you couldn't subscribe to be notified outside of the general feed when somebody posts. Well, that's what I wanted to know. So it's like, oh, I'm not interested.
Yeah, Minds also has another big issue. They said they're all about privacy and so on. But where is the privacy? You either post something or you don't. You can't
Well,
select the group you want to post something. For example, if they want to fight the hate speech laws and so on, well, that's a noble target for a noble goal.
no, it's
But
not. Hate
how
speech
to,
laws are shit. Sorry.
yeah, we are talking about the same. But the issue is there are laws in certain countries.
Yeah.
So if a poster posts something that's against that law, the authorities don't need to have the help of the people of Minds to give them data and so on, because they usually already have this data. They see the IP addresses, they see who posted there, and they see the posts, and they can go against this person because everybody can see what that person has posted. It's not only for visible for logged in people or for signed in people, it's visible for everyone. And that's why I have the issue with, because if I want to share something, I want to know who can read it.
But
That's why I love
that
Google Plus.
depends. No, well, I haven't used mine for a long time, but you certainly used to be able to
No,
control
you will
who could
never be
see
able.
stuff. No,
Never.
you used to be able to control. You could set up private groups. You could
No,
restrict
no,
who could
it's never
see.
possible.
No, it was. It was.
I was
There
there from the beginning. There was never a
No,
function like that.
there were functions. I had private chats with people where only
Yeah,
them
the
and
chat.
me.
Yeah, the chat.
No,
But
no,
not.
not
But
in
not.
the chat. Not in the chat, using posts. You could set up a post and only invite a group, and only invited people could join the group. And what was posted in the group, you could set it so that was not posted outside the group. You could do that. It was
Yeah, I
always
know the
possible.
function you are referring to. But copy the link of a post that was set in posted in a private group and log out, and then post the link and well, be surprised. That's why I never joined the groups or anything. The system of Minds can't be trusted. They went all for privacy, but
Yeah,
in the end, it wasn't ensured.
because they hadn't a good system. And I remember I was there early, and they had it was called something like a bugs or something. I can't remember, but it was to do with faults. But you could make suggestions, and they didn't care about improving things as people suggested. They only cared about some grand functionality and monetizing it. Well, get the basics right first. You can build all the fancy stuff on top of good basics, but once you build all the fancy stuff, you can't fix the basics. This is the problem. And they didn't care about the basics. So all the broken stuff stayed broken because they then made it too complicated. It's stupid. Because I said to them, I should be able to choose whose posts I'm notified for on an individual basis.
Yeah, not getting all that boosted stuff of people boosting each other for,
Well,
well,
I understand.
nonsense.
No. But the point is this: I joined groups and then used the notifications, and I never had to go to the homepage as long as the people I was interested in posted to the groups I was interested in. That's fine. You got all the notifications for the groups you were subscribed to and chose to be notified for. But I could not choose to be notified for all the posts a person posted. But that's what interested me. That's what I wanted to do. And I suggested it to them, and it would have been trivial to do that. But they didn't care. They didn't want to do it. So it's like, if you don't want to do it, I'm not interested in using your shitty platform because it's broken as far as I'm concerned. It's like, oh, mine is good. And it's like, yeah, what define good? Define anything. No good saying something is good. Good is so subjective as to be meaningless.
Another thing is that there was absolutely no discussion about anything that was not related to the culture war. And I tried joining a few channels about other things, and there were like 2 or 3 people always.
Yeah. Well, to be more precise, what I found was this. Say you wanted to join a group. Okay. Even by the time I joined, there were several anti-SJW groups, and one of which was the big popular one.
Mm.
But it was hard to find groups, and there was nothing to stop or even inform when multiple groups were set up for the same subject. So you get
Yep.
fragmentation by design. What you want is to have keywords, and then the group has a keyword, and you search for a group, and you hit the keyword, and it's like, here you go. And then you focus people onto the one group because people wanted to join groups with other people. But you can only do that if you can find them. And so, as I say, the interface, the system was fundamentally broken. And it's like, you know, if you don't care to make a usable experience, I don't care to use it.
Yeah, that's why people are still referring to Facebook as social network.
Well, because it works. You get a stream of the people you subscribe to. You can
That's true.
limit who gets to see it. You can communicate. The Minds chat is awful. The chat in Facebook is so much nicer. And you know, you get control and it gives you what you want. That is 95% of it. And these companies that go on providing all this other stuff, they go, oh, we got privacy. Don't care. Really do not care.
Well, yeah. I'm reminded of Google Plus with the circles, and when they had the Hangouts, the old Hangout, not the one we are talking now, the old Hangouts with the Talk plugin in there. It was so easy to use. It was a great user experience. The only issue there was people were already over at Facebook and using WhatsApp. It didn't reach the critical mass, so yeah, Google let it die.
Yeah. And critical mass is so hard to do.
Yeah, you have to be there from the beginning, otherwise the one who has been there takes
Well,
over.
yeah, it's winner takes all. That's the problem with these platforms.
Yeah.
They've rapidly consolidated into a few winners.
Well, there's a tendency on the internet for things to become monopolies.
Yeah, it's inherent because, I mean, it's not even the internet. It's what happened with Windows. I remember way back when Windows was still fighting for dominance, there was a dynamic that was happening. And the dynamic was people went to Windows because other people were on Windows. And other
And
people on
because
Windows
Microsoft
because
allowed the pirating
no,
the operating.
it wasn't just that. It wasn't just that. It was
Oh, I think it was that because back in the day when Windows gained market, there was a competitor, OS2, which was
yes, but
doing
OS2
the
was a
same.
Microsoft product.
Not only a Microsoft product,
No, it
but
was a
it would have had
collaboration
chance.
between Microsoft and IBM, but that wasn't a Microsoft product. The point was is Microsoft and its primary things like the Office Wars were the best example of this. People went Microsoft because it was Microsoft. Literally, people would say, oh, well, such and such is better, but I need interoperability. I get interoperability, or I can trust for interoperability if I stick with Microsoft. And so they would knowingly accept an inferior product for usability. And usability is interoperability. It's no good getting products from your customers or your suppliers if you cannot read them. And it was very clear in the discussions at the time that when you have similar quality products, the differentiator makes a huge difference. And that differentiator was one company, one platform, interoperability. And then once one side gets ahead, it just becomes inevitable.
And the thing I've noticed in when it comes to getting products in the market is that of course there's no limitation, there's no geographical limitation, because you can reach anywhere if you want to in the real world. Of course, if you want to reach new audiences, you have to expand to a new location. Here you don't need to expand to any location, which actually makes the natural monopoly happen even faster.
Yeah.
And there's absolutely no control, which is kind of why I understand the why people want to turn the internet into a public utility.
Well, because it should be.
Yeah.
Or to be more precise, companies like Facebook and YouTube should be run as utilities and not have terms of service. That's my approach, and it's a rare one, but I think just get rid of their ability to have terms of service. If someone has a legal order against them or their content, fine. But the company itself should have no say, just as the phone company has no say. You know, if somebody runs a toll road, they don't get to say, oh, no, you're not allowed to go onto our road because you're a bad person. You know, they run a service, you're allowed to use it. If you can afford it, you can use it. It's the same with these companies. And people, oh, but they're private companies. Yeah, but they're not.
They have a monopoly, so
They have a monopoly.
should apply.
Yeah.
And legally, all private companies operate on a public space.
Yeah.
Therefore, they must not only follow the law, they must also allow others to follow the law.
Yes, exactly. And it doesn't matter if they don't like what someone says. That's the whole point of free speech. It's not about whether you like with it, it's whether what the person does is legal or not. I don't care if I use somebody's wrong pronouns. Really don't care. I mean, I watched this discussion earlier between Brendan O'Neill from Spiked and some purple lip twat. And he's like, the purple lip twat is like, oh, but I feel so much better when people use my pronouns. Okay. But how the hell do people know your pronouns? That's the bit you're not factoring in. If I see a picture of somebody who looks like a man, I will say he. And if I see a picture of someone who looks like a woman, I will say she. And if I see a picture of some amorphous blob, I will probably say it. But I'm not doing this to hurt or not hurt their feelings. I'm using it because my purposes are linguistic, to communicate. And the person involved is no part of that. You know, if I talk to somebody about Michael and I say he, Michael might not even be aware of the conversation. So what does he care that I call him he or not?
because one of the persons that is hearing the conversation is going to tell so and so racist was not using your proper pronoun in the
Yeah,
conversation talking about you.
but that's them being a twat. That's them.
That's
No,
offended
it
by
is.
proxy.
It's them. It's them who are the problem. And this is a problem. It's people getting offended on behalf of other people. No, you have no right to get offended on behalf of anyone else. That person can get offended. That person can stand up and say what that person feels. But to assume, I mean, it's like that the Badger stream earlier. They were talking about this moronic woman, Michelle Williams. I did this for all women, and Alison's like, "You're not doing it for me." But that's what
Well,
they
you're not a
do.
woman.
No, Alison said,
Ah,
"But you're
so,
not doing it for
okay.
me because no one speaks for all women. No one speaks for anyone but themselves." And it's like all the time in the SJW language, you see people expanding their personal opinion as if it represents anyone else. And I'm sorry, no, it doesn't. It's just you. If you cannot stand by your opinion affecting you and no one else, then piss off. I don't care. If you have to expand it to somehow claim that you are speaking for someone else, well, you don't. I don't care who you are. I don't even fucking care if the Prime Minister of my country claims to speak for me. He doesn't.
So you didn't vote for him?
No, he doesn't speak for me. He's my representative, but he doesn't get to say what I think and feel. You see the difference?
Yeah.
He gets to act for me, but he doesn't get to speak for me.
He's going to act for you like a bad
Well, you have to
actor.
have
Yeah.
you have to have representatives who act for you, but
Oh, that
but
actor.
they
Okay.
don't know what you think and feel. They cannot know what you think and feel, and they shouldn't pretend to know what you think and feel.
What if they are psychic?
Yeah, right. If they're psychic to that extent, they would be insane. Because hearing the conflicting cacophony of millions of people simultaneously would drive you insane. And for my reference, I cite the highly scientific Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Oh, God. And I successfully forgotten about that show.
Hey,
Thanks, John.
best program ever made. Fight me.
Well, yeah, granted, it has Alison Hannigan in there. So
No. It's the best program ever made. It had the best storytelling, a phenomenally consistent story history. So they were able to make jokes in the 7th season referring to incidents in the first season, and it was consistent in the story. So many programs I've watched, and something happens, and then later on they talk as if something different. That contradicts it. And it's like, no, they were. And they also, halfway through the 4th series, which is before Buffy got a sister, she mentioned having a sister who didn't arrive until half a series later. That is phenomenal storytelling.
John, it's very disturbing hearing a grown-up guy like you debating about Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
You see, that's the beauty of it. It's such a silly, nonsensical concept. That literally, what happened was, is I opened the television listings and I saw this story, this entry, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and I'm going, that's an interesting name. and it's about a cheerleader who's a superhero. And I thought, thank fuck for that. I am sick of Superman and all that boring bollocks. And teenagers get to die because I hate that Beverly Hills 91020 or whatever it was called, right? And I just love the idea of an American TV series about school-age teens getting killed. I know, I'm a psychopath. I don't care. It's fiction. Get over it. And I start to watch it, and it's like really interesting way they play with ideas. And unlike most American television at the time, there was no morality, insofar as everything was blurred like reality. Vampires could be good. You could get an alliance between the vampire slayer and vampires to stop a different evil. These are the sorts of things that happen. All the main characters did something really heinous at some point. All had character flaws. This is good because it's complex, it's subtle. It's like saying, you know what? Even the heroes fuck up sometimes, or are mean, or are hateful, or are, just wrong. That's
Well,
complexity.
yeah, but these were the 90s.
Yeah, but that is complexity.
There were many shows with character developments, and the characters also had flaws. For example, Babylon 5, Deep Space Nine.
I never saw those. I didn't care. I saw Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I like the idea.
Babylon 5 was the Lord of the Rings in space.
I like the idea of a attractive young woman in attractive young woman's clothing being the hero.
Yeah, maybe you just thought it was to be porn.
No, it wasn't.
That the series creator Joss Whedon stole everything from Marvel Comics.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It does not matter.
No, it doesn't. But it's noticeable. There's a lot of it that the character interaction, a lot of it is based on the X-Men.
No, but
the X-Men from the 1980s.
You know that everything's derivative, right?
Yeah. But it's fun finding the. It's fun finding the references.
No, it's fine. But here's the thing, right? Okay, they made 7 series, 140 odd episodes, but for all the derivativeness, they created a coherent, consistent world.
Mm-hmm.
And they had a sense of humor about it. Did not take themselves too seriously. And that's what I loved about it. It's the way that it's like you can have incredible pathos and then humor and then, all mixed in, which is, a bit like life. And it's like, you can say, you can find these flaws. Yeah, you can look at anything and find flaws, but what can you find that's good? And in most television, especially out of America at that time, it was shit. At least the stuff I saw.
By Renovatio.
Sorry?
I said by Renovatio.
Oh, is he off?
He's leaving, yeah.
Oh, sorry, you saw the chat before I did, and I've got the actual stream chat open. Yes, it is getting late. You're doing well. But yeah, it's like, and here's the thing, okay? I like Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and I don't expect anyone else, and I don't care if anyone else likes it, okay? Because how it speaks to me is a personal thing. And if it doesn't speak to anyone else, that's fine. That's okay. But I will stand up from my perspective of what I like about it. Just as, You can like these other things. Fine, because you liking them detracts from me not at all. No Johns were harmed in other people liking other stuff.
We should make an experiment, I think.
Uh-huh.
We should take some SJWs,
Oh,
put
no.
them in front of the TV, and then let's play some 1990s and 1980s series and watch they react to them.
Yeah, they've done
One's
that,
gonna
didn't
be
they?
Buffy.
Was it Friends? They all freaked out about something like that.
No,
Yeah, I remember they did.
I would select, for example, the Bill Cosby Show,
Oh, for fuck's sake! That was cringe.
Married with Children.
I don't know that one.
You don't know about Al Bundy?
No. What's the one with the
The
little
first
bloke?
MGTOW portrait in TV.
What's the one with the little short dwarf black guy?
That was with Kelly Bundy, Bud Bundy, Peggy Bundy, Marcy Darcy.
Yeah, I don't know that one.
Oh, God damn it, you missed out on
Different
someone.
Strokes. Different Strokes. When they had that little tiny black guy he was a short person.
Gary Coleman.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And then we should also, Family Matters should be also in there. And then let's play them 26 hours a day. And look
26
about the
hours a
react.
day.
No,
26 hours a day.
let's make them watch All in the Family. See how they react to Archie Bunker.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know that one either.
Oh man, All in the Family was like the first sitcom where you had a feminist and an intelligent black person.
Oh,
It was
right.
it was in the 70s. Yeah. And right, Archie Bunker was a blue collar guy from New York. His wife was a housewife. She was a bit of an idiot, but then again, so was Archie. And his daughter was in college, and she was already married, and the son-in-law lived in the house, and Archie hated him because he was a liberal.
Oh, right.
And it was like a total SJW. This is
What, the son-in-law?
Yeah, the son-in-law. Yeah, he was called Mike, but Archie called him Meathead. Always Meathead, and he was against the Vietnam War, and he was all for integration, and he demanded more rights for the workers, and he wanted more. He wanted people to care about the environment.
Mhm.
So he was always arguing with Archie, which he didn't appreciate because he was in his own home, and his son-in-law, who is taking his sweet time graduating from college and has never had a job, is trying to lecture him on the proper way to be in the world. So of course, so that was a big part of the conflict. And then there was Mike's friend Lionel Jefferson,
Mhm.
who was a young black man also going to college, and Lionel was one of the funniest parts in the show because every time you went into the house, Archie liked him a lot, but Lionel always played the coon. You know, he showed up and it was like, "Hey, Mr. Bunker, hey, we sure he's having a fine day today." It was, and he was playing it for laughs. And one day, Mike, why do you always do this? It's just fun. It doesn't mean any. It doesn't mean any harm.
Yeah.
But then one day, Lionel's family moves into the neighborhood, and Lionel's father immediately clashes with Archie, especially because he's also a conservative, and he's very libertarian. I built myself up, and I deserve to be whatever I want to be, and I'm buying this house, and I don't care what anybody thinks.
Yeah, we should show that to social justice warriors. Oh, that would be fun.
Yeah, but social justice warriors have several common traits, one of which is not having any memory.
Yeah.
Just because they advocated for something yesterday doesn't mean they have any recollection of advocating for it.
Yeah, that's why you make it in an experiment. First, you record their statements, what they are fighting about, and so on. Then you make them watch the series, and then you make another set of what they are all about, and then compare it to each other and look how they are going to contradict themselves
Mm-hmm.
on a scientific basis, you know.
Yeah.
The TV show is just to melt them.
Yeah.
It's just a tool.
Yeah. No, I mean, the problem is that I mean, I've said this before. Okay, so the SJWs don't actually know or understand what they're upset about. They just take their cues from people as to what and how they should be upset. And that's why they're such comedy gold.
Yeah, and that's why the old TV shows are best material to melt them,
Yeah,
because
exactly.
they tell people how to be, how to react, or how to not be, and so on.
Yeah. And the fact that it changes over time, and the very things they rail against now are the very things their forebears advocated for, is, if done right, comedy gold, as I say. Absolutely hilarious.
What was that?
What, comedy gold?
I didn't understand the last sentence after Comedy Gold.
Absolutely hilarious.
Ah,
Mm.
okay.
It's funny as fuck. Comedy, humor, mockery is the best approach. I've said this for a few years now. People keep getting upset at the SJW. It's like, no, just laugh at them.
Yep.
That's true.
Or ignore them. Go, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well, yeah, but as I say, but laugh. When they say something stupid, don't get upset. Laugh. Because they don't know how to react to it. They are primed to react to criticism because it puts them in the opportunity of being on the offensive. That's how they know how to behave. But if you put them on the defensive, you throw them off balance, so to speak. Then they don't know. It's like, oh, what do I do? You're not supposed to find it funny.
Someone's using a Logitech mouse.
Yeah, that's me.
Ah.
I have had all kinds of problems with mice since
Of
I
mice and men.
no, just mice. And the one I've currently got actually working on my PC is a Logitech.
Sad that one can hear the brand of the mouse, right?
Well, it doesn't
Oh.
surprise me. Yeah.
Well, it's a clear sign that I worked too long in support.
Well, it's details like that which actually I find interesting because most people just blur all the distinctions out. But you're still tuned. I like that. That's good.
I still what?
You're still tuned.
Oh.
Tuned into these differences. And I like that. That's good.
It's just one giant bit trauma.
Well, that's life. Life is one giant big trauma, yes. The question is, how do we deal with it?
We could go on war.
We could go on what, sorry?
On war.
War.
To war.
To war.
To war.
Yeah.
Like fighting.
Yeah, no. To be honest, I
But
don't.
yeah or no?
No, we shouldn't. I've heard people talk about war, okay, and they're going like, "Oh, we need a war." Actually, we don't need a war. What we need is what war brings. In fact, funnily enough, somebody, I forget who, was talking about the Iranian situation. They were saying, the Iranians are facing problems at home. What is the archetypal response to problems at home? You create a foreign relations
Threat.
problem. Yeah, a foreign threat. That's what the Iranians are doing. They're creating a foreign threat to distract from problems at home. Why? Because foreign threats unite people. So what we need
True
is
point.
something to unite people without actually killing our men. Because let's be honest, that's who dies. And as men's rights people, we should be in favour of not killing our men in order to unite society.
Well, we could draft all the social justice warriors and feminists, but I'm not sure if they wanna.
Well, no, we could draft them. I quite agree. But I'm not sure how easy it would be to achieve, given that they're the ones with the powers of influence.
Well, if we frame it the right way.
No, trust me. They are allergic to actually doing anything or contributing. They're there to boss people about. Bear with me a moment. I'll be right back.
That's what they always say when you ask them, what do you think is going to what do you think is going to happen when communism finally arrives? What are you going to work on? Oh, I'm not going to work. I'm going to be a party member so I don't have to work.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, but in order to be a party member, you have to be useful to the party. And since they don't know how to do anything, they can't be useful to the party. Off to the gulag.
And then they are working.
No, what did I do? You're an idiot. Congratulations, now you're paying for being an idiot.
That's the thing.
Stupidity doesn't pay taxes. Maybe it oughta. A tax on stupidity. How do we define that?
Oh, that's better.
Yeah, it's tax on stupidity. That's great because you can't measure the intelligence because intelligence doesn't say something about being stupid or not.
No, intelligence is white supremacy, didn't you know?
Yeah, but we were debating on how to tax stupidity.
It's
how
called
to
the
measure that
lottery.
stupidity.
It's called the lottery.
What do you do if someone stupid plays the lottery, paying the tax and wins? He gets.
Yeah, but it's the difference between the individual and the group. This is a fundamental problem most people have in their thinking. So you can have a group outcome that doesn't necessarily benefit the individual. You can have individual outcome that doesn't necessarily benefit the group. So essentially, what the lottery does is it redistributes to the occasional winner, but siphoning off a healthy chunk for those running it.
Yeah. Didn't look at it this way.
It's just statistics.
And people who win the lottery usually don't know what to do with it.
They usually have very bad outcomes.
Yeah. Of course, I figured out the secret to enjoy your lottery the lottery winnings. Just keep living your life normally.
Yeah, absolutely. And stand by the box that says I want to remain anonymous. No, I mean it's an option usually when you win a prize to be public or anonymous. Whatever you do, insist on being anonymous.
Definitely.
Ignore
tell
Otherwise,
anyone.
all
I'm going
the
to have many friends.
ignore all the the hormones or whatever it is in your brain that go, I want to share this with the world, because that'll be the worst decision you ever made.
Uh-huh. Or I want to open a restaurant. Especially, I'm going to quit my job and open a restaurant. I've always wanted to own a restaurant. Yeah, you're going to work more in by owning a restaurant than if you had a normal job.
Well, if see, again, it depends, because you could argue that you needn't work.
Right. You don't need to work. That's the big advantage. You can have your normal life. You just don't have to work.
You can actually get a job you like.
Mm-hmm.
Something that
Or
comes to
grow begonias in your backyard.
Very few.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, I often thought about it, and then I realised that the people who would handle winning the lottery well aren't likely to play it in the first place.
Mm-hmm. Sure, we're talking people that are not good at business. So people who are good at business don't need
Do
to
the
play the
lottery.
lottery.
Yeah, exactly.
They know how to pick where to spend money to make money.
Well, we all have our different character traits, but some
Sure.
of us don't value wealth for its own sake. The people who do and the people who don't. That's fine. Not criticizing those who value wealth. It's just, in the modern world, it's easy to have more than enough without having very much compared to most people.
Mm-hmm.
And the older I get, the less I need to spend, until my fucking car breaks down, which it did outside Glasgow.
Ouch.
I broke down 430 miles from home on the 30th of December.
Oh, damn.
Yes, it was not good. But
How'd
I
you get
made
back
it.
home?
It was got to work enough that at a maximum speed of about 55 miles an hour. Sorry, I don't know the metric.
About 70 kilometers per hour.
With a tremendous drop off at any incline, and a maximum of 2,000 revs, no matter what the gear. Yeah. But I safely got home from Glasgow to where I live, 430 miles away, just not very quickly. And it's fine.
Is it a turbocharger?
No, it was an injector in a diesel engine. That was the problem.
Oh, you could have totally wrecked the combustion chamber with. You probably had a soot in the injector.
Well, I cannot say. It's been fixed now, so fingers crossed. But it wasn't
that can
cheap.
totally blow. That could totally have blown the engine.
Well, it's funny because the guy in Britain we have two organisations, primary organisations. One's the Automobile Association, the AA, and the other's the Royal Automobile Club, the RAC. I'm a member with the RAC. And they sent out a guy and he looked at it and I said, "Is it safe to drive home?" He said, "Yes, you'll just be quite slow at doing so." So I did.
Okay.
Well, for me, it sounds like an issue with either the air filter, B, the diesel itself, so it got paraffin in it.
No,
when
it's
it
not.
was
It's not a
recalled.
problem with the fuel. It's not a problem with the fuel.
Well, then it's the
it was
AdBlue
in the
system.
electronic. It was in the electronic system.
Yeah, sounds like AdBlue injection or AdBlue sensoring.
But anyway, the point is, it's been fixed. It works okay now. It just wasn't cheap. Because that's the way of the modern world.
Yeah. Too much electronics.
Well, and everything takes too. See, the problem is they over-engineer these things, and they take too much time just to take them apart and put them back together again, and so it costs you a fortune in labour costs, even if they don't do much.
Yeah, you know that you can't take your car to a regular mechanic anymore. Most of them don't have the tools because you need special tools to get to certain parts of the car, especially around the engine.
Yeah, and you
But
need
the
to know what you're
software,
doing, which is not easy as they're so complicated and there's so many wires and this. But anyway, it was fixed. That's the good news. And yeah, say la vie. This is life. The IG model who went through a 46,000 GBP inheritance is having a 3 million GBP home to foreclose.
Man, they should take.
Instagram model for 46 million and is having 3 million home foreclosed.
Man, you have. How long did that take?
I know I didn't. Is the short answer, Richard. I have no idea who you mean. But
Okay, so let's see. Gets 46 million pounds, spends it on a 3 million home.
no, I don't think I don't think that's related. I think she had 46 million, but now has basically spent it all. So her £3 million home is being foreclosed. And the question is, if you had 46 million, why didn't you pay cash? Because if you pay cash, it can't be foreclosed on. The worst is you sell it, but it's not foreclosed. People are idiots. I mean, seriously, people.
but with mortgages, you got more money.
No,
more
you
money
don't. No, you don't. No, you don't.
Yes, I know, man. I know.
No, you don't.
Her thinking. She's an Instagram model.
Yeah. Yeah.
Looks, no brains.
That's what I said. People are idiots. When years and years ago, I went. Try and cut a long story short. I had £500 in a savings account, and I needed that £500. So I went to withdraw it and close the account. And somebody in the branch tried to tell me that I shouldn't close the account with my £500, but should instead take out a loan. And I said, okay, how does that work? He says, well, yeah, blah, 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 blah. And I said, so how much will that cost me? 6,400. And how much will I get initially? 4,400, because you pay the first payment immediately. I said, so you're telling me I shouldn't take my £500? Instead, I should take 4,400, and that cost me 6,400. And this person was presenting this as an option to me with a straight face. I'm thinking, Jesus, what? Do people fall for this shit?
Yes, they did. Didn't you realize the 2008 crisis with the subprime papers was about exactly this?
Yeah. And it's like, but it's just like so obvious. I need £500. I've got £500. I will use that £500. Thank you.
Yeah.
Nice, simple. Goodbye. Honestly, you just think, oh my God. Blaming the foreclosure on her third ex-husband. Yeah.
But if she had 46 million British pounds, why
did
her
she
ex-husband have to pay?
Yeah, why
Wouldn't she have to pay them?
Yeah, exactly. Why is she needing money from an ex-husband? Yeah. Well, that's female entitlement for you, sadly.
Well, yeah.
Not all women. Now, Walt.
Hashtag not all.
Not most, in my experience, but enough.
Well, 99.9% is still a high number if
No,
you
no,
think
no,
about
no,
it.
no, no, no. I have known many women, all of whom are fantastic, intelligent, capable people. They just get represented by the morons, just as the feminists blame all men for the example of the few percent who are dysfunctional, broken, etc. It's what they call it, proximity bias, I think they call it. Or frequency bias as well. Frequency and proximity. So it's probably a combination of those two. If you hear something a lot and you heard it recently, you think it is more prominent than it really is. And if you've got a media feeding that proximity bias and that frequency bias, then it just makes it worse. Why do the media feed those biases? Because that's what makes them money. You way, go capitalism. Capitalism sucks, by the way. Just not as much as all the other systems.
Nice save.
No, it's true. It's like, Winston Churchill's famous quote: "Democracy is the worst of all is the worst system except for all the others." It's the same thing, right? The mistake is in thinking there is a good system. Needed 3,000 for hair and beauty treatment per month. Yeah.
I should have spent it on shrink.
That I can believe. Yes. Oh, dear. But even so, 3,000 a month, still only 36,000 a year. And I'm sorry, 36,000 a year does nothing towards the cost on a 3 million
but a
house.
woman needing 3,000 a month for hair and beauty treatment also needs money for
clothes,
for cosmetics.
Yeah, well, I think the cosmetics and beauty treatment, but you might be surprised, but I would not be surprised that there isn't a significant proportion of the higher earners where that is just typical. That is not at all an extreme amount in certain circles, I would suggest. But it's his fault for not giving her enough money. Because women aren't at all privileged and entitled. No, that never happens. Thus the thumbnail. To tonight's stream. Women have always been the primary victims of war. Because of the emotional labour. Sod the real labour, only the emotional kind counts.
It just dawned on me, the quote from Clinton wasn't too wrong at all. Women lose their husbands in combat. Yeah, sure. Ever been in family court? Beats every war zone.
Yeah, but they don't lose their husbands in family court. They throw them away.
Yeah, true that. So, as the conversation stalled again.
Yeah, I think we should call it a night, having been going for over 3 hours. I think we've got a long enough sausage, to quote a certain channel.
Long enough sausage and lots of off-topic.
Well, I actually was mentioning, not to you guys, but before the stream, I was thinking, should I stream? Yeah, I'll stream. And it was like, I haven't got a topic. But then again, it doesn't really matter, because even if we have a topic, we don't stay on it. So it doesn't make a huge amount of difference.
Right. We talked about language. We talked about Iran. We talked about Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and we talked about subprime mortgages.
Yeah,
And
I
we
mean,
also talked about hoes, Instagram models,
yeah,
Instagram models.
languages.
the
Was it
the general stupidity of people. We
And
covered a
minds.
lot of bases. And minds, yes, and minds.
Goddamn. Impressive range of topics we had today.
Yes, yes. And I reveal my utter ignorance of the American electoral process. You see, I always think get ahead of the curve. If you don't know anything, just admit it up front. Then no one can accuse you of trying to blag it. It's like, hey, I know I'm ignorant on this subject. It's the way to go. And with that pregnant pause,
We called the name for Stephen and the Coal Bear.
Stephen and the Colbert, yeah.
Yeah, that was a great one.
yes. So, with that pregnant pause, I will thank our remaining viewer, who, as far as I can tell, is Richard Bear. Thank you, Richard, for your company. And we will go. Anyone want to say anything?
Good night, everyone.
Bye bye.
Goodbye. And I have a